In today's video, we're going to be exploring the MF-101S Lowpass Filter plugin, which is a software variant of the MF-101 Moogerfooger hardware pedal, which is also a descendant of many Moog transistor ladder filters found in the Model D and the vintage modular systems. You'll also notice that because this is software, we've added an extra settings panel that allows us to create a stereo envelope follower and adjust the response of the envelope follower for added flexibility not found on the hardware. In today's example, we're going to be looking at an in-the-box project that is made up of 5 different tracks, and I'm going to use the MF-101S to process each one of them individually. So let's take a moment and we're going to begin by listening to the main drum track, Dry. So as you can hear, I have a hip-hop beat with a little bit of a trap feel, and I'm going to be using the MF-101S to add a little bit of EQing via the resonance knob to thin out the drums a little bit and add a little bit more energy at the top by the hi-hats. So let's hear how that sounds. You'll notice that the filter is set all the way open, and I'm even using the envelope follower to make sure that I'm not removing any frequencies, but because I have the resonance set where it is, it's adding a little bit more accentuation to the hi-hat. Now, in the second track, I have an extra set of hi-hats, so let's listen to how those sound dry. So this is a pretty simple pattern with a lot of fast ratcheting hi-hats, and I'm actually going to apply the exact same MF-101S settings that I used for the main drums. So let's hear how those sound processed. This once again pulls a little bit of energy out of the low end of those hi-hats and accentuates more of the higher frequencies. So let's hear how that sounds in context with the previous drum part. So as you can hear, the MF-101S is giving me almost like a subtle equalizer effect on those two instruments, and I'm not using it for more dramatic filtering. Now let's listen to the bass track that we have, and in this instance I will be using the MF-101S to do more dramatic filter effects. So let's hear how it sounds dry. You might notice some clicks on this bass track, and that's simply because I'm using a compressor with a sidechain effect so that the bass ducks the drums when they're playing. And even though the drums are muted, you'll still hear that sidechain effect on the bass. Now I'm going to go ahead and engage the MF-101S, and you'll notice here that my cutoff setting is set much lower than in the previous 2 instances, so I'll be having a more dramatic filtering effect on this track. So let's hear how that sounds processed by the MF-101S. So you can hear I'm actually using it in this instance to do a lot of low-pass filtering without much envelope modulation, just to remove the top end and just leave my lower, deeper bass frequencies. And now I'm going to add back in the previous 2 tracks so we can hear the bass line in context with the drums. So now let's move on from there, and we're going to listen to a lead sound that I'm using, sort of like a whistle patch found in early hip hop music in the 90s. Let's hear how the dry signal sounds. And on this track, I'm going to be using the MF-101S similarly to the bass track, just to remove some of the high frequencies so I get something closer to a sine wave. So let's listen to how it sounds processed by the MF-101S. So as you can hear, this is a subtle effect that's mainly used for mixing so that I can have it interact with my other 3 tracks in a nice way. So with that in mind, let's listen to how it sounds in context with the bass line and our other drum tracks. So I have one extra track left, which is a sort of fake grand piano sound. And let's take a moment and listen to how that sounds dry. And in this track, what I'm going to be using the MF-101S for is, again, for low-pass filtering, but this time with a little bit of the envelope follower modulation opening up the filter. So let's give a listen to how that sounds processed by the MF-101S. So as you can hear, this is again a subtle filtering effect, but it just is a nice way to pull a little bit of brightness out of that piano sound. And now let's listen to all 5 tracks in the context of the mix, and each track is going to be processed by the MF-101S individually. So as you can hear, the MF-101S is a really useful tool, especially when mixing multiple tracks. And while it can be used as a very straightforward low-pass filter, it has many applications in the mixing process beyond just filtering.